welcome back to another video. So as you can see behind me, we've got the motor in the car. We just got to hook up all the odds and ends to get this thing ready for its first start. Considerations whenever getting this thing fully installed. The space is very tight around the motor, so you want to make sure that you hook everything up in the right order. Those things that I'm talking about, you know, the downpipe, the transmission, the heater core hoses, the routing of the wiring, the intercooler piping. Now, you know, I don't know if I necessarily have it done the right way, but I'm just trying to take my time and make sure I got everything done in the right order. So my plan here is, obviously, not sure if you can see that, but there's no transmission installed. I only have the flywheel in. Realized I was missing those dust shields, so I'm waiting on those to come, as well as the heater hoses. I know the heater hoses are going to be hard to get to, and those are the heater core hoses I'm talking about. So I ordered those also because I was missing them. I want to make sure those things get installed before I install the transmission, because I may never be able to get another chance to get my hands back behind the motor again. So but while I'm waiting for those to come, I think they'll be here in the next few days. I'm going to go ahead and start doing a couple things that I know I can do before I put in the transmission, and that is the downpipes. Go ahead and throw the clutch on, the O2 sensors in the downpipes, and then what I may also do in this video is a few other things just to tidy up the engine bay. Maybe put the intake hoses here so I can go ahead and measure out a space to order an air filter, and I'll show you how I do that. So real quick, let's take a look at some of the things that we'll be installing or working on today. So I got the Z1 downpipes. I've got new O2 sensors to throw in there, and these are the factory spec ones. I've got a new clutch disc, new pressure plate from Z1. Got my fork all cleaned up. I've got a brand new bearing, and this bearing has to be pressed into your I think it's like a bearing guide or something like that. So interesting to see how that works. I do have I think a 2-ton press, so that shouldn't be too hard, but basically just pressing, you know, this bearing out off of here and pressing the new one on. Got to knock that out. So real quickly, just kind of want to show you the situation that we got going on underneath the car. I did increase my heat shielding, so I added a little bit more here. And then I also added a little bit more here because I noticed that the turbos were going to be right here. Same thing on this side, added a little bit more heat shielding on that side. On top of that, you know, obviously here's the back end of the motor. Got the flywheel on there, got these brackets installed. And also we did put a brand new pilot bearing in there now to take out the old one. Ended up having to rent a slide tool from AutoZone. I think I have one around here somewhere, but I couldn't find it, so I just rented one. AutoZone will actually rent you tools free of charge, so that's a pretty good deal that they got going on. Basically what I did was I used that press over there to push the bearing holder alignment thingamabob into the actual bearing, and then I kind of clipped it on here. Not sure if that's how it goes, but I'll go back and look at the pictures to make sure that's what it looks like. But yeah, boom, done. Alright, so hopefully you saw the train wreck that was on the time lapse. Basically, I went to throw the I went to throw the pressure plate on there, but I didn't have the bolts, so I had to go ahead and order those bolts that go right here. When I sold my motor, I left everything on there. Didn't even think to take the bolts off. Wish I would have in retrospect, because at this point I've had to order the flywheel bolts and then now the pressure plate bolts. The next thing I did was I went ahead and started prepping these downpipes. There's a O2 bung on the top and on the bottom. For the factory, you can use the ones on the top. The ones on the bottom, they can be just plugged off. I didn't have the copper washers, so I took some that I had already, and I, as we like to say down south, wallered them out to make them fit. But if you're doing this job, just grab you a M18 copper washer, and you won't have to do that. You'll have it ready. Next thing I did was went through and tightened everything. Those spacers that are on the other side that go between the wastegate and where the hot gases come out of the turbo, they were loose, so make sure you tighten those if you're using these. These are Z1 headers. And then after that, I went ahead and bolted these up. It was not easy to bolt these up. Another thing I noticed too, that didn't come with lock washers. I have my own lock washer, so I threw them on there. I definitely think you need lock washers on here because you don't want this to come off, and it doesn't hurt to put lock washers on. And a lot of times the factory will have lock washers on something like this. So I went ahead and threw them on. This bolt right here was like impossible to get to with a wrench. What happens is, maybe I can show you, when you try to throw a wrench on it, and this is a 13 millimeter, which is going to be the size they give you, there's just no space between the bolt and the tube. I tried throwing the same size thread bolt, but a 12 millimeter, that also didn't work. So as you can see, I ended up using an Allen head bolt. Now it worked, but I ended up having a modified tool. And you know, I'm no stranger to trying to make stuff fit in a tight space. I got assortment of tools. I got a freaking 13 wrench I've cut in half to get in tight spaces before. But what I ended up doing was taking the 8 millimeter wrench and cutting it here and cutting it there. And basically that made it to where I was able to use it to tighten it nice and tight, and it fit in that really tight space. So I don't know what other people do to get that to fit. There's no way that this factory 13 millimeter bolt was gonna fit. I tried a 12, which I thought was gonna fit, but that's what I did to make it fit. So good luck to you if you're trying to do the same thing. I think that's gonna be it for this video. I probably gonna do some other things, just small things, and not record it. And then the next step, I will probably be working on setting up the intercooling system or the intake system, something like that. So I'll keep you updated on my progress. Make sure you subscribe and stay tuned.